Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 32 of the 40k Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I'm joined, as always, by my erstwhile, friendly, intelligent, handsome, and strong partner, Kamubaba.
Of the four adjectives you assigned to me, two are probably true, but I'll leave it up to the listener to decide which ones those are.
Handsome and strong. You look like Gaston from what's that movie?
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. There we go. I was going to say Belle at the Ball because I'm an idiot and I don't fucking know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Ah, yes, my favorite Dibney movie, Belle at the Ball. Let's all go to Dibney Whirl.
Oh, Dibney Whirl. Here we go. So, Campbell, before we get into the show here, we got some feedback lately, and I wanted to discuss that with you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So you don't know what I'm talking about, but you think I'm talking about different feedback, but I'm talking about feedback where we sound apparently, quote unquote, extremely American.
Oh, that's my favorite feedback we've gotten.
And I want to ask you what you think that means, and maybe we'll try and experiment with the aspects. But what do you think that means?
I mean, if you want us to sound more American, like, our accents are pretty mild for generally where we are. Because, like, if you go into Southie and you get, like, that really fucking Southie accent, kid, which I only kind of tangentially have through exposure, kind of the same way I contract malaria or radiation sickness, that's, like, a peak American accent. And, like, Dan's got a little bit of that, like, a little bit of that twang. Like, it's a little bit gentlemanly.
It's a little bit.
It's not, like... It's not that straight up like, oh, you are slurring through a bowl of gumbo right now. I cannot understand how Southern your accent is.
I say y'all in conversation.
I say y'all in conversation.
Yeah, so we are extremely American sounding, and I don't know if that's good feedback or bad feedback at this point.
Ooh, that's strictly subjective.
Well, I was thinking, Campbell, should we attempt to sound less American for the aspects?
I mean, if we can... I don't think I can do, like, the transatlantic accent, like, unless I'm reading it.
Yeah, welcome to the aspects. How about that? The German accents?
I'm sure they won't make anyone upset. No, that's why you've got to do the transatlantic accent, which was developed as kind of a
What the fuck is a transatlantic accent?
It's kind of like the 40s newscaster voice.
Oh, okay.
Our boys are out there taking it to Jerry. Like, it's not exactly English. It's not exactly American. It's definitely it's probably Western.
Okay.
Oh boy, I can't wait to go home and paint these Space Marines.
Oh, we're going to get out of here. Paint some Space Marines.
23 Skidoo. All right. Speaking of painting Space Marines, have you painted any Space Marines lately, Dan?
I have, Campbell. I've finished 5 intercessors. Now I have 20 of them. On my quest to get to 6 squads of 5 intercessors, I've got 4 done. And I haven't done much else because of that, because I was on vacation. Oh, well, I did a couple of things, but let me break down what happened with my time and where it went. And it went to Ireland for 10 days. So during our break between episode 31 and this episode, my wonderful girlfriend and I went to Ireland, and she didn't come back, my girlfriend, Campbell. She came back, my fiance, because I got engaged.
You're just like, yeah, that thing Campbell did. I'm into that. I should do that now.
So I have it was totally because I saw you do it. Though I have a question for you, Campbell. What kind of shirt were you wearing when you got engaged?
I think it had a pentagram on it.
Oh, that's so weird because mine had a 40k Badcast logo on it.
Oh, God. She's not just marrying you. She's marrying the podcast.
Marrying the podcast. And because of that, Campbell, I'm going to need you to be there in my wedding party.
I would expect nothing less.
So not only are you going to get the invite, but you're going to get to stand up there with me. And, I don't know, dab the tears from my eyes as I sob uncontrollably.
I thought you just wanted me to stand up there and dab furiously to celebrate your nuptials.
That too. We'll try to get you to crack one off during the ceremony.
I can't wait to stand awkwardly with my hands behind my back while you guys talk through your vows, and I think, oh, this is adorable.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Anyways, I finished 5 intercessors. I started on Primaris Chaplain and some Primaris aggressors, the easy-to-build flamer aggressors, which, to report on them, they are A, easy to build, and B, they come with these little base details. Like one of them is a bolter that's like half buried in the ground. One of them's a dead servo skull. The other's like a piece of masonry. Cool. I was kind of blown away. Like they're really cool. They make the bases look really good. And I don't know. These things are great. Aggressors look super cool. These things came together super easy. They're probably going to be, not too difficult to paint. So I'm excited to get to work with them. Oh, and there's one other thing I did, and this is bad. I did the bad thing. I did the bad thing.
The good thing?
I bought the Estrellas.
Woohoo!
It's going to be here on Tuesday.
I'm also sorry for you having to edit this later because I'm just like wooing into this microphone fucking constantly, and I'm sure it's hot as hell.
No, just be yourself and do your thing, and I'll just put, what I normally do is put a limiter on you and your fucking exuberance.
Expressly me.
So I didn't actually get too much hobby done while we were away, but now that we're back, I have a feeling that I can get back into the swing of things and get some stuff done. However, though, Campbell, you got what can only be described as a stupid amount of shit done with your hobby. Yeah,
so work's kind of slow at the moment. If you've been on any of my social media, you'll know this because I'm fucking tweeting constantly. But I built and painted not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 knight armigers. So 2 Helverins and 2 Warglaves, and they are all in the House Lakar scheme, which is blue and yellow with this black and white checkerboard motif and these fleur-de-lis on them. And God, first of all, those kits are fantastic. They have almost nothing spare, but I can put them together without instructions now because of just how easy they go together.
Fucking done it 4 times too.
Exactly. And painting them was not hard at all either. I keep the armor plates separately because, it's a knight. You want to paint the skeleton one way and the plates separately, especially when they're fucking yellow. And I have this like system with all these thumbtacks stuck to MDF cutoffs, and all the bits are just sticking on top of that while I do the actual painting. But I did different heraldry in each one of them. I have carapace patterns in each one of them. I'm thrilled to bits with how they came out. And speaking of bits, I lost half the autocannon on one of them while I was building it. And I was on my hands and knees for 45 minutes trying to find one tiny plastic piece on a gray carpet. I did not find it, so I had to replace the gun barrels with dragon heads from one of the Chaos vehicle sprues that I had lying around. But he looks cool, and it fits the kind of like knightly sort of jousting lance sort of look that the Helverins have. So I'm pretty happy with how that came out.
Yeah, have you tweeted these out yet?
I tweeted them at Duncan Rhodes asking if they had enough glorious heraldry for his taste.
Listeners, get to Twitter and check out at Brother SRM, his Twitter handle there, and check out these knights. They're fucking gorgeous.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, that's not all.
Oh no, keep going, please.
Well, so I also built a knight gallant because I've got to have my fucking kung fu grip knight in Battlefield.
The one true knight. The only knight you need, the knight gallant, who has no fucking guns except for a heavy stubber. I guess you could take more guns, but why the fuck would you?
If he has guns, he's not punching. So why would I ever do that? Always be punching. ABP.
ABP. Always be punching.
Maximum pugulator. But yeah, so I'll be doing that guy soon. It's a fucking sticky swamp outside right now, so I can't I can't prime him. But
I've been having that trouble.
Yeah, well, you live in fucking America's armpit, so it's going to happen. I'm a little north of that, so it's not usually quite so swampy.
Yeah, it's America's knee pit, okay? The knee ditch, not the arm ditch.
Okay, fair. Sweat still gathers there. That's what I'm getting at. I was born in Maryland. I can talk a little bit of shit in that general area.
You've got. I know you have your knight paladin, right?
Crusader. It's Crusader has the Gatling cannon and the. Either the battle cannon or the melta gun. That's what I painted.
That's the one you already have.
Yes.
And then you have 4 baby knights to go with it.
Yes.
And you have a gallant.
Yes.
That you've already built, but you haven't painted yet.
Right.
And there's more?
Yeah, still in box. I have the Knight Valiant with the big old harpoon gun and the big flamer. Because again, why would you take the one without the harpoon gun? And like I see people posting, it's like, oh, the volcano lance is super good. The plasma one is super good with this trait or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care about that because you lost me when you didn't say the words harpoon gun.
No, see that one actually. I think that one might be might not just be super cool, but also really fucking good.
Yeah.
Because unless you have one of those warlord traits that ignore Overwatch, you can't charge that thing.
Yeah.
It's got a fucking 3d6 strength 7 flamer.
The conflagration cannon.
Yeah, it's going to roast 18-inch range, so it's going to roast, I don't know, literally fucking anything.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked for that one. That's going to be, after I finish the Gallant, I'm going to move on to that one. But I have one more project in the pipeline now.
Oh my God.
Because clearly I was about to say more money than sense, but after buying all the shit, I have less money than sense. But I was going to take my Templars to Nova. And after the last few games, which we'll get to in a minute, I don't want to take my Templars to Nova anymore. Because Marines are not in a great place. So I'm going to be taking my Knights. And
just Knights?
I bought a fuckload of bits to build a custom guard regiment to go with the Knights, which will be the House Lakar Fusiliers.
Oh no, Campbell! You realize it's almost fucking July.
Yeah, I do.
Campbell, you don't have time for this.
You say this.
You still have to do a Gallant, a fucking Valiant, right? Is it the Valiant?
Yes, it is the Prince Valiant.
So you have Gallant, you have Prince Valiant, and you're going to do probably, what, a battalion of guard?
30 guardsmen, 2 characters. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I have almost all the bits sourced. Some of them are coming from the UK because auto gun arms are very hard to come by right now. So by the time they actually get to my house, I'll have already painted at least one of these 2 Knights. And I don't want to give away the conversions I'm doing for them just yet. Like, I'm really stoked to build up this army. It's going to look really cool. It's going to look very much in line with the House Lakar guys. And my worst case scenario, if work catches on fire and I just don't have time to do anything before Nova, I can just take, some of my Valhallans. I can take a guard regiment and they'll be cool. And of course, they're based the same. They'll look good together. But I really want to feel this like coherent, cohesive, like household guard in the same blue and yellow, in the same black and white as the Knights themselves. And I'm really stoked to actually get going on this project. It's kind of like, it's not even the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just like, I'm just looking forward to the next lap as far as building this stuff goes. Wow. But I mean, if I can paint like a squad a week, I'll be able to do it.
Yeah, after the 2 Knights you got to do.
Exactly, which will take a week each.
Are you going to do 2 commanders, or are you going to do a commander and a psyker?
A commander and a psyker. I've been sourcing some bits to have this like caged psyker guy, and it's going to be fucking cool. I've actually been workshopping stuff with Peter back and forth about it. He's going to be bringing me a bunch of bits when he comes up to visit Boston in July. I
am really excited about this. I'm not even fucking doing it, and I'm really excited about this. Your Knights in my Astreus. We're gonna fucking take this narrative campaign at Nova, and we're gonna kick it right in its stupid face.
And each kick will count for 3 kicks to its face.
Oh man, that's great, dude. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
This is more exciting than my engagement.
More exciting than mine too. But yeah, no, I'm fucking stoked for this. And I did come to a slight realization when I was painting the 3rd Armiger that my paint scheme is basically House IKEA. It is like, if you were to go into like the Pantone for IKEA blue and IKEA yellow, it would be pretty fucking close to the blue and yellow I'm using, man.
Oh, man.
But like most IKEA furniture, I can now build armigers without instructions, so it all comes around.
There's a joke about horse meat and meatballs in here somewhere, but we don't have time. God damn it. All right, did you play any games?
All right. I do want to do Rough Riders, so that's when that'll come around.
Are you doing Rough? Oh, my God.
That might not be for Nova. That's
Are
like
Rough
a stretch
Riders
goal
even
thing.
in the Codex anymore?
No, they're in the Index, but what is more glorious than a cavalry charge?
You're literally turning into Duncan Rhodes.
Gallantry is contagious.
Maximum gallantry, always. Always be gallant. Okay.
Always be gallanting.
Okay, did you play any games?
Let
me go first. I didn't. I have a funny story. I was supposed to play games this Monday. I was supposed to go to Mike Brent's house and play games Monday night. But after I got back from Ireland, I was experiencing not maximum gallantry, but maximum intestinal destruction. And so Monday rolls around, and like the weekend just was bad. It was bad news the whole time, and it's still kind of bad on Monday. And so I'm there, and I didn't go to work on Monday. I was like throwing up in the morning, so it was bad. But got to like nighttime after dinner. And I was just like, man, I can't go play games tonight because I don't want to be known as the guy that pooped himself that one time at game night. And I was like, you know what? I'm 32 years old now. I have to be able to make good decisions and have forethought. So I'm just going to stay home and like paint or something where I know that I can get to a bathroom on time. And I didn't have any accidents at home, but I don't know what would have happened if I was out in the wild.
I mean, I'm just happy that, here's the thing. I'm glad you don't play Chaos, because if you did, you would be literally Char-Tor the Executioner. That's an Age of Sigmar joke.
Hey, okay, but you played some games, right?
Yeah, I did. I played 3.
Tell me about your games.
All right, so first I played 2 games against my buddy Cody. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Cody. He's probably not listening. Anyway, so we played 2 games, 1,000 points each. It was my Templars versus his Dark Eldar. Because I remember I played against him a while ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm not good against Dark Eldar. I don't know what to do against them. Let's try to play. I want to get some practice against them. And after these 2 more games, I've realized that I just can't fucking play against Dark Eldar, man.
Let's avoid them.
It's like everything in the army is exactly the opposite of, or it's exactly the counter to what I have. And he is a shrewd player. Like, he's a very tactical, thought out, deliberate player. Like, watching him play Blood Bowl is, it's like watching a chess player go. And in the first game we played, it was a 6 objectives. You roll for each one, whatever. And if this one, when you roll a 6 on one of them, that is the objective. All the rest are trash, and that's the only one that matters. And I was kind of on the back foot the entire time. I was getting shot up real bad. I was making charges, but not really hurting things very hard. The 5-up invulns that all Dark Eldar vehicles have were just too much. And really, the highlight of the game was when I rolled for the objective, and it was one that I was about to lose to him, and I burned a command point to reroll the die.
Nice.
So I wouldn't give it to him. But at the end of the game, I only was able to eke out a tie because I saved 2 command points for my captain. He was only in death to his duty end, and he killed just enough racks to bring the objective to a draw. So it was just like 2 models on at the end. So that was like, I felt good about that clutch play, and it was a fun game, even if it was kind of an uphill battle. And game 2 was just ugly. It was just him flying circles around me, picking my army to pieces. Like, I lost my Land Raider turn 1, I think. I think I lost my Land Raider turn 1 both games. And honestly, it was just him wrecking me. The only thing that really stands out is his Archon charges my Chaplain. My Chaplain overwatches and hits him, wounds him, and causes him to fail his 2-up Shadowfield save.
Yes.
He burns a command point to reroll that, which I later found out you can't actually do. But in hindsight, this is hilarious. He failed the roll again, so he lost it, and my Chaplain just fucking bonked his Archon in the head with his Power Maul. And then
you can't re-roll for the Shadowfield?
You can't re-roll for that Shadowfield that the Archons get. No.
Well, that's actually kind of balanced.
It is kind of balanced, because I've always liked that kind of razor edge sort of, the stakes of that piece of war gear has always been very Dark Eldar, and it's been around forever.
Yeah.
And I like that you can't just burn a command point to make your guy invincible.
Yeah, pretty good.
But yeah. It was a bad game, but I was happy hanging with Cody. Yeah. Then I played a 3rd game against my dad for Father's Day, where I just kind of threw together power level lists gave him the Valhallans, and I gave myself my Templars again. And I made the mistake of giving him the Shadow Sword, since I've never faced one.
No.
And hooey, was that a bad idea? It's like, he's like, he rolls the dice. He's like, okay, so what do I need to wound your Land Raider? I'm like, a 2. And he's like, oh. Because the main gun's like strike 16 with 3d3 damage or whatever the fuck.
2d6 damage, fella. It's 3d3 shots.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. It doesn't matter. Whatever it shoots is dead. That's all that matters. So I just got fucking hammered and just I lost my Land Raider my Command Land Raider turn 1 and my Crusader turn 2. And this was a game where afterwards he was like, I've never gotten through a game with you and had this many guardsmen still alive. I lost more Marines than he lost guardsmen. I lost more Marine tanks than he lost Lehman Russes or Toroxes. And at the end of the game, I had like 8 models on the table, but I had drawn better cards and was able to get ahead of him with a few like really good plays. So I barely won. But both of those last 2 games, I felt like throwing in the towel at the halfway point. But near the end, I ended up having a lot more fun, so I'm glad I didn't. But regardless, if I'm getting thrashed this hard against my friend playing small casual lists, attempting to make a softer list, and losing this or almost losing this bat against my dad, who doesn't fucking play Warhammer on the regular. How bad will I do at Nova? So that's why I'm bringing knights.
Probably bad. That makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah,
I think you're probably having a good idea here, bringing knights.
Yeah, and I've been talking with JD, as you may know, in that little group chat, and he has his own grievances about the Marine Codex, and I see other people bring up their grievances about the Marine Codex, and yeah, it just seems like kind of the time to put my Marines on the shelf and wait for their new Codex whenever that'll come out. Which Codex Space Marines, those don't come out that often. So
yeah, well, I'm sure in chapter approved in December this year they'll do a little fixes to help Marines do their thing.
Yeah, I hope so. Because, I'm not a meta chaser, but there's a point where I'm getting stomped so hard that it's not fun anymore.
I mean, you
and
can
I don't want to be having that
Primaris
again.
Marines. I'm doing that. I'm not getting stomped.
Yeah, I could. I just, if you think it's going to be hard for me to paint 2 knights and a bunch of guardsmen before Nova, imagine how hard it's going to be to paint, a brigade of Primaris Marines.
You're right. I'm not saying, do different than what you're currently doing. Be yourself, do your thing. I'm just saying that there's you don't have to give up completely on Marines.
Yeah, no, they're not. I'm not selling them on eBay. I'm not putting them in a wood chipper.
Okay, well, let's move on to new stuff. I don't really think anything except the Knight Codex is dropped, right?
Yeah, just the Knight dice,
the Knight Combat Gauge. What? Yeah, it's been pretty heavy on Age of Sigmar. And I don't really want to talk about Age of Sigmar too much, except that the fucking ghost dudes look so cool. The Night Haunts, and the spells, the endless spells. That's a really cool mechanic.
The endless spells are hilarious. I'll say what I said the first time I saw the Mad Ball, which is I don't know who asked for this, but they seem fun.
Yeah, so they're really, really killing it with those undead models and stuff. But the Knight Codex seems like a ton of fucking fun. I understand why you want to bring Knights to Nova, and I just bought a fucking Astreus. It's on the way to my house. It's coming on Tuesday, and I am this fucking close, Campbell, and I'm holding my fingers real fucking close together here to buying a Knight Gallant, a Freeblade Knight Gallant.
I mean, you would not be remiss to do so, but see how the Astreus goes first.
It's like 350 points or something for.
Yeah, they're cheap,
and you can give him that fucking gauntlet, and he just squeezes the fuck out of everything and then throws the dead body of whatever he squeezed to death at something else to cause it more wounds. It's fucking awesome. Yeah,
no, the Kung Fu grip is pretty fucking cool.
I am so fucking close, dude. Knights, I've always liked the look of Knights. This Knight Codex is flavorful and tons of fun. The whole Freeblade maximum gallantry thing, and then of course there's the idea of the Knight Gallant, which is not nearly the best possible way to build a knight, but it's the coolest possible way to build a knight. And I fucking want one because he's got a chainsaw on one arm and a big fucking fist on the other arm, and he's just wading around, smashing and cutting and fucking stomping everything to death. And Campbell, that speaks to me. And
on an intimate level. I will say I did try to model the hand, so it'd be giving the thumbs up, but I'd have to cut the fingers to do that, and I decided not to do that.
Oh my God, I want to do that. Maybe there's there's some guy who makes axes for knights that weapon swaps or whatever. Maybe there's somebody out there that makes a posable hand you can buy. Or maybe I can just buy it and fucking send it over to Peter and say, "Hey Peter, make it into a thumbs up."
He'll do it.
So somebody in the 40k Discord was telling me that I should get 3 gallants, and I was like, "Oh my God, it would be House Wood Chipper."
Oh God!
Though I'm thinking if I do that, I would want to get a Valiant and 2 gallants, which would be close to 1,000 points or so. I don't know, maybe no 3 gallants is about 1,000 points, which I don't know. Why am I fucking thinking about this, Campbell? I just bought a goddamn Astreus. Not to mention the fucking engagement ring and the fucking trip to Ireland. I don't have any goddamn money.
Well, the thing
My
is,
friends want to go camping next weekend, and Danielle wants to go, and they're like, "Well, let's do it. I'm like, "We don't have a tent," and she's like, "Well, why don't we buy a tent?" And I'm like, "I don't have any fucking money. We don't have any fucking money." Oh, and I'm moving in July. This is
Jesus.
Oh my God, dude. Why am I thinking about nights?
Because dreams always come at night.
Listeners, buy our t-shirts, please.
Help fund Dan's bad ideas.
Okay, we're going to move on. I want to talk real quick about feedback and giving feedback to the podcasts. We've had a lot of feedback recently. A lot of it's been very positive, and some of it's not been positive, which is fine within some guidelines here. So how to give feedback to the 40k Badcast. One, there's only 2 points here. One, don't expect us to take you seriously on Twitter. Like, if you come at us on Twitter, and especially if you're, tweeting stuff at us that, isn't flattering or is not necessarily flattering, but is ridiculous. Like I'm not going to take you seriously. It's fucking Twitter. Twitter is not, I don't think, the place for serious discussion. I don't try to do serious discussion on Twitter. Campbell, I don't think you usually try to do that either. A lot of people do. They like to do that, but it's not going to happen. So if you come at us with feedback on Twitter, don't expect a lot, at least coming from me. And if you do want to give us feedback, positive, negative, whatever, like, email us, contact@40kbadcast.com. And if you're not a complete piece of shit, we'll talk to you. We'll try to figure something out. We'll have a little bit of a discussion. I love doing it. Campbell, I know you love doing it too. Mm-hmm. Like, we want to engage with our listeners. If you like what we're doing, if you don't like what we're doing, come engage with us. The best way to do it, though, is to email us at contact@40kbadcast.com if you want to talk to us.
Yeah, because like we've over the past 2 weeks or so, it's like if you listen to the last episode, things got a little heated there for a minute, and I was kind of thinking like, damn, Dan should have been born a preacher. But no, I know. But it was. Like, it was a very important discussion. I'm glad we have it. And the responses we've gotten have been, honestly, for the most part, pretty inspiring. Like, we've gotten a lot of great emails of people saying, like, hey, this has given me the courage to stand up to this sort of shit in my group. Or, this has made me rethink my behavior or the behavior of other people I know. And we even got some people who disagreed with us who emailed us. And, the people who actually emailed us who disagreed with us tended to be like, hey, I don't agree with these points of the conversation. These points of the conversation, I think, have some merit. Instead of the guys on Twitter who either just say, good job, which, it's nice to read, or the guys on Twitter who are like, virtue signalers or whatever. So
right. And, we do want to interact with you listeners. We do want to talk to you. And we're not, I don't want you to not reach out to us on Twitter. But if you want to have a discussion with us, the best way to do it is through email.
Yeah. Although on Twitter, tweet pictures of your models at us because that's always super cool.
Yes. All right. So let's move on. We're going to go to our newest segment where we make the call. I've trawled the internet for important 40K questions to ask you, Campbell. And I got one for you. I got one on the line, as you Boston fishermen might say.
I can't wait to see what your tens of minutes of research have dug up.
Dozens. All right, here we go.
Ooh.
So this one is from somebody on Yahoo Answers named Horses Please 19.
Okay.
Horses Please 19 says, what is your opinion of the Warhammer 40,000 fandom?
Oh.
And they followed up with, are they hilarious emperor-worshipping space marine blokes who hiss heresy! ! Numeral 1 at anything? So, Campbell, what do you think? What's your opinion of the Warhammer 40,000 fandom?
So I've walked into a game store and overheard that exact conversation, like the Spesmarens heresy, and like I fully take ownership over the fucking Spesmarens meme. Like, it's dumb as hell and I love it. But it's like when I go into a hobby store and I overhear that, or people like quoting Emperor's text-to-speech device, which, it's enjoyable, but quoting it out loud is kind of like, yeah, I kind of go like, okay, I'm just going to buy my paint and leave.
Not fucking talk to anybody. This is that's my like experience at every Games Workshop. Or I'm sorry, every time I go to the Springfield Games Workshop, where the guys that run it are super nice and I talk to them, but I go in there and it's like, two 15-year-olds who it's Saturday or Sunday, so they haven't bathed since Friday morning, and and they're screaming about, you're a heretic. No, you're a heretic.
And like, here's the thing, I'm sure when I was 15, I was also dumb as hell. Like, it comes to the territory, but yeah, no. What do I think of the Warhammer 40,000 fandom? It is No, that's a loaded term. Not going to use that. There's a wide range of ranging from the absolute cesspools to people who are just kind of folks who enjoy it. And there's people who are super into it all over, and I'm glad people are passionate about it. How about that?
That's
passionate. Passionate is the word I'd use.
That's great. I think when you walked in, or when you said that you walked into a game store and you overheard, I was thinking of the phrase, like, one thing you could do with the Warhammer 40,000 fandom, but you can't do with a lot of other fandoms, is you can walk into a game store and over fucking smell them, which is maybe not a glowing
if you want to read my Yelp review of Pandemonium Books and Games, you can know what I have to say about that.
That's next episode. We'll be doing Yelp reviews next episode. There is one good, I thought, maybe not good, but one response, and it's by a guy named Math Freak, or a person named Math Freak, I should say. And
all right.
His response is, "They are super hilarious, dude." Which I like. I like that little positivity.
Okay, that's a little bit posy.
All right, so what I'm really excited about this episode is we've got an interview with somebody really cool. Her name is Sarah Kaiser. She does a ton of stuff for not just for her own things, but she does art for Warhammer. She does a lot of the art on Warhammer Community. I think she does all the cartoons for little headshots of all the community members, Warhammer community team members, that is. And then she'll do all the like a little interstitial. What do you call those things? Like when they had in codexes, like there's little.
Interstitial is probably the right word to use.
The Warhammer Cafe in Texas, all the art announcing that was hers. And then she also does her own webcomic called Eagle Ordinary, and she released a lot of very cool things, like the White Shields coloring book from last year's Adepticon. So let's get to our interview with Sarah Kaiser. Okay, Campbell, when we think about the sphere of Warhammer 40,000 content creators, would you put us on the list of important people?
First of all, I hate the term content creators because that just makes it seem like we're just shoveling mist into the grill. Wow.
Whoa. No. We're going to keep it mist into the grill. I like it. We're keeping it.
Sure. All right, cool. It's not my favorite terminology. Would I say we're important? We're certainly among the people who create Warhammer adjacent media.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to answer for you. The answer is no. We're boobs. We're goons. We're idiots. But you know who's not any of those three? Sarah Kaiser, who we're talking to today. Sarah, how you doing?
You guys are very kind. I am hot. It is humid in Boston today.
Yeah, the Ideneth Deepkin have summoned their ether sea all across the East Coast.
Clearly, they have brought it from the Gulf of Florida because the mildew is setting in.
Oh, nice. That's good. That's how you know it's working. Sarah you can find her art online. You can find it at eagleordinary.com, right?
Yep, that's right.
eagleordinary.com. You can find her art all over the Warhammer community page. Welcome to the 40k Badcast, Sarah. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So we're going to get back in the not-so-way-back machine for a moment and talk about 2017, when Campbell and I first went to Adepticon. And we were first, or at least I was first exposed to your artwork in the form of the White Shields coloring book, which was amazing. And I still have it at home. And whenever people have questions, like my girlfriend's friends or whatever come to the house, and I guess my fiance now. I got to get used to saying that, Campbell.
Congrats, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Whenever they come in and they want to ask about Warhammer stuff, I usually show them the White Shields coloring book and be like, hey, it's fun. It's a fun thing. And that gets a lot of play. So we wanted to ask you first, how did a project like that come together?
Oh, well, it kind of starts the way I think a lot of projects do, which is just, spitballing weird ideas with your friends in some like Discord channel or something. We'd sit around and just be chatting when we probably should be working, and like, hey man, wouldn't it be, what do you think White Shields do all day when they're not getting shot on like some backlands of Cadia? Well, they're probably coloring, but only with gray crayons. And like Administratum gray is the one prescribed imperial color. Well, what would be in it? And then you just keep going and going, and it snowballs. And the next thing you know, you've got like several dozen ridiculous ideas that should not be seen by day. And, we started making these little publications that we just kind of backed out of our own pockets and gave away at Adepticon for fun. And we've been kind of brainstorming different ones to do that year. And the coloring book seemed like kind of an obvious win. You know, it was fun. Coloring books are fairly cheap, easy to produce. And Adepticon was offering to help us finance that year to just put it out there. So seemed like a really fun project that they could put their names on, feel good about, and give the younger audience something to really latch on to.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the joke of that book was that it is a coloring book ostensibly for kids where it's set in this goddamn nightmare universe.
Yep.
Do you feel like Warhammer Adventures, which are the books that are aimed at kids, is kind of stepping on you now?
No, I'm so excited for that, dude. Can you imagine? Imagine Scooby-Doo, except they've befriended a space marine, and that space marine's job is to not kill the children. Like, that's his one job, is to just bring them back alive. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the plot line. I hope it is. Probably not. But I'm sure whatever they come out with will be awesome, and I'm going to buy it. So
they just take the helmet off the Trader Marine at the end of the episode and go, "Old man Ezzy." Never mind.
old man Ezekiel, or
old man Erebus.
Old man Lorgar.
Stumble over that.
Yeah,
that's good. That's
I would have gotten away with it too if it
possibilities
weren't for you and your cyber groks.
Oh no! So why would anybody waste? Okay, you know what? Whatever. So Sarah,
there were rules for cyber groks once.
I mean, I loved Young Jedis when I was younger.
Yes, I remember those books.
I read the crap out of those books.
I remember I got sent to detention in 7th grade because I was reading, I don't know, one of them. I don't remember which one. And they were like, I was in class and I wasn't paying attention because I was like too engrossed in a Young Jedi's book.
Oh,
what a rebel.
Yeah, I was a real bad kid reading in class when I should have been paying attention.
I got some in-house suspension for holding my pencil the wrong way. Still hold it the wrong way.
Nice.
But my hand doesn't hurt, and I write all the time, so I must be doing something right.
Well, as Anti-Flag said, I think it was Anti-Flag. Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. A long time ago, fuck your authority. And Sarah, I'm glad you're still living that.
Living my best life.
Okay, so you are probably best known for your work on Eagle Ordinary, and we're going to give you a chance to talk about Eagle Ordinary in a moment, but I want to ask you, what was your introduction to Warhammer? Like, how old were you? What were you doing? And what were you into?
Oh, goodness. You know, it wasn't all that long ago. I grew up kind of in the sticks. You know, I grew up with a bunch of... I was kind of a weird robotics nerd when I was younger. I used to solder and I would program and do all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, I didn't really have much money. And so Warhammer was not only something that was never introduced to me because I was in the middle of nowhere and there were no shops out there, but also I just would never have the money for it. And so it wasn't until college that I went down with one of my friends into his basement and he showed me his orcs. And this was like 3rd edition. And so he was telling me about all the wacky tables for orcs back then. And it blew my goddamn mind because there's nothing I love more than irreverent, ridiculous nonsense. And I knew I needed this in my life in some capacity. And so, I was always into like Gothic art history and like the art style behind it. And I fell in love with Blanche and some of the other artists. And once Dark Heresy was like thrust into my hands, from that point on, there was just no return. You know, I started collecting Valhallans because I loved Caiaphas Cain.
Nice.
I've got like 70 of the pewter little motherfuckers. I've got enough to sink a boat. And
my favorite regiment.
You're preaching to the choir as far as too many fucking pewter miniatures go.
We both have metal guard armies.
Oh, yeah, but that's the good stuff. The trouble is with a guard army, like so much of it is like morale strategy, right? You gotta look them in the eye whenever they knock your guys off the table as you like drop them back into the box to show them how much you don't give a shit that they just killed your conscripts.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with pewter because it'll put a dent in the fucking floor.
Yeah. So, or they'll chip.
Yeah, or they'll chip. And so I started doing
pain.
that. And I started collecting tanks, and now it's knights, and now the nightmare never ends. It's this is just me now collecting more knights.
Yeah, accumulating more plastic crack. Yeah, we know.
And you guys have taken a dip into that too, right? Like Campbell, you've got your House Lacar. Was that it?
Yeah, House Lacar. It's an old scheme from Epic. I just Yeah, we were just talking earlier on the show about how I painted 4 armigers so far this month.
Yeah, it's great because he's able to pull off all of this hobby progress this month, whereas I've been able to paint 5 Space Marines. So, you know,
you've
it's
painted
cool.
more models than me. You've painted more models than me this month. That's what matters.
Yeah,
Your
that's right.
intercessors?
They were intercessors, yeah.
They're so freaking cool looking.
They're the absolute best. So let's. I want to give you a chance to maybe sell someone who's not necessarily familiar with your work on Eagle Ordinary. Give them a quick reason to go over and check it out.
Ooh, if you want some casual reading that's inspired by role play, if you're a role player yourself and you love those kind of stories played out in visual form, might be a good read for you. You know, I'll be full disclosure. This was my first comic project, so it's got some rough edges going in. But frankly, some of my favorite webcomics are ones where you can kind of see the progression of the artist as well and watch them as they kind of develop their craft. And this was very much that project for me. I had no idea what I was doing going in, and neither did any of the folks who I had dragged along for the ride. And, you know, at the point where we've currently left off, while I'm kind of like doing some life stuff, we're in a pretty sweet place, I think, like visually. I think the story is fairly easy to grok for someone who's kind of new to the universe. You know, we don't throw in too much jargon. It's very much a show, don't tell sort of comic. And I like to think the characters are fun, but I'm also super biased. So because it was an RPG and I played 2 of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was based off of a game of Only War.
Oh, that was my favorite type of Warhammer 40k RPG.
Really? It's a good one.
I never got around to playing any of them, but I had read through a few of the books, and Only War seemed like, for those that were into the more action and combat oriented RPGs, that it was like really, really powerful, good system for that.
It was. It did some things better than others. I thought one of the most appealing parts to it was the acquisition stable. Because let's say you really just needed more last packs because your guys are idiots and you lost them in the mud, and for some reason your commissar didn't do their job and shoot you. You roll for that, and when you fail, because you'll fail, you roll on this table that tells you what you get instead. And that could be anything from like MRE packs to Ogren-sized underwear to, an entire case of melta-bombs. Sky's the limit. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's sweet.
So what would you say, other than RPG influences for Eagle Ordinary, what would you say your main influences in designing the comic have been?
Oh, that's hard. Lots. There's a lot of different webcomics I read. Glove.
Yes.
It's one of it's okay. It's one of my favorite webcomics. It's one of the few that I read religiously.
Can't read it at work.
Read it at work. And if you were to look at the first couple pages of Eagle Ordinary, I actually stuck pretty close to the way that they do backgrounds, which is like a very simple single shade here and there, like a really quick, easy to do thing. Because I admire the artists and I admire their storytelling so much. But then as things go on, I inadvertently start to quality creep, which is less of a, don't be fooled by the term quality, because it doesn't mean that it's better. It just means I put more time into it. On the other hand, I really like Der Shing's work with The Meek and Mari Minervum, which is their new work, and Stand Still, Stay Silent. Also, Kill 6 Billion Demons. Have you ever read that?
Yes.
Holy
I haven't read
shit.
that. That sounds dope as hell.
Oh my god.
His colors are so juicy. That guy writes 3 RPGs. He's working on 3 RPGs at the same time.
Man, Jesus Christmas.
While doing the comic.
That comic,
is that not absurd?
That comic is so fucking cool. The character design, the colors, the story.
Oh, man.
Just absolutely mind-blowing. Love that one.
All of it. I need to get both of his books. My GM's got his book signed, and I am the picture of jealousy.
Very nice.
Yeah, because like I was reading, I marathoned through Eagle Ordinary over the past week just because like I've touched in on it before, but I wanted to kind of refresh myself on it. And it was really, it was cool to see the art style evolve over the course of it. And it maintains that same DNA as it grows more expressive, as it grows more detailed. And by the end of it, there's some or the end of what's currently there are some scenes in like this kind of ruined temple sort of thing. It's just this lush greenery, and there's like the god beams coming out the windows and all this stuff. And it looks like the background to like a television animation, like a cartoon on TV. And like I'm an animator, so I very much appreciate nice backgrounds and pleasant character design. And it was really fun to see that evolution happen over the course of it.
Oh, goodness. I think that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Out of the 2 dream jobs I had as a little baby girl, doing backgrounds for something for an animation is actually one of them.
Badcast, making people feel good up in here.
There you go.
Talking shop for a moment here. Do you see yourself more as like a background artist or more of a character designer, or do you just like having your hands in all the soups at once?
Everything at once, because I don't feel like I excel at any one area. I feel like I do a variety of things, and I like, I've got one of those kind of restless personalities where I kind of have to be doing everything all the time. And so it kind of suits me. And I'm a software consultant during the day, so I'm a project manager. And so, doing 5 things at once is kind of in my blood. I can't work on a comic without watching also The West Wing or The Wire, like something where I can keep my mind busy. What's your favorite season of The Wire? Oh, I just started watching it, so it's hard for me to say. I just got off watching it now because I've been working all day. Yeah. And I felt like I needed to just like sit and recalibrate my vocabulary because after like listening to that, I'm like trying to think of how to phrase things, and I'm reverberating between like 90s cop, 90s grouchy cop, and 90s hood, which I am not at all.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I'm from the Mid-Atlantic region, from D.C. area, and there's a distinct Mid-Atlantic accent. And we've been getting shit recently for, not shit, but people have been telling us that Campbell and I sound extremely American. And we were trying to think of ways to sound more American. And so the Baltimore accent, like the long A's,
I'll do it.
Like go to A's game, grab a couple natty bows, like that stuff. Like that, they do that so well in that show. And as a native to that region and somebody who is constantly trying to, stamp that accent down as I'm speaking because it tries to come up, and I don't want to sound like a fucking Baltimore townie any more than I already do. I appreciate that they did a great job in that show. So we're talking about your art. And what has you have a very distinct art style. It's very clean. It's colorful and cartoony, and I am a huge fan of that kind of stuff. So, what's your background in art, and how did you develop your style?
It was an escape. I used to draw a lot as a kid, and I kind of always knew that it was never going to be like a full-time gig for me, because I'd grown up watching my heroes who were very good artists kind of like fail because it was a recession, right? And I also grew up in the middle of nowhere. And so I figured the best that I could probably do was to grow up, be a graphic designer, do something tangential where this could be something in my toolkit. This was my thought as I was like 11 years old. And so, I got into ROTC around then too. I did ROTC for like 4 years, which I really, really enjoyed. And, it came to a point where I was kind of tossing up. Do I go to design school? Do I go into the Marines? Do I go to design school? Do I go into Marines? And then at some point I realized I was gay, and that kind of answered that question for me. And so anyways, I went to RIT. I went into this program that required a course to learn the definition of what the program was. It was new media design, and we all went in and we're like, okay, well, we're here now. What are we taking? What are we paying? Like way more money for a year than we can afford. And as it turns out, it was just a fancy way of saying user experience design and graphic design kind of blended into one creature. And I'm really glad I did it because I grew up designing experiences without really knowing it. I was making online communities. I loved designing forums. as a child. Can't explain that one.
Wait, did you say forums or forms?
Forms. Like both. So, both installing BBS forms and like redesigning those and like editing the CSS as like a teenager, and then also creating forms like FORM, like pieces you would fill out as a role player to help figure out what you were doing.
Okay.
Right. And it's the kind of thing you don't really think about, but it's really fun when you're doing it if they're designed well. And my goal was always to design well.
I heard forms and I was like, Sarah's over here fucking freelancing for the DMV.
Not far off. I work primarily in the health and government sector within data analytics within software. And so I've helped design forms for like the SNAP program in Massachusetts.
Oh, cool.
I've designed it for data analysis for programs like Crimson Hexagon, so on and so forth. I won't bore you guys with it, but my day job is weird, so it's good though. That's
cool though. It's the kind of stuff that, like, when you see a painting, you go like, okay, a painter painted that. When you see, a video, you're like, okay, someone filmed that video and edited that video. But with things like forms, whether it's a character sheet or a form you fill out on a website, you kind of don't really think about it, and unless it's bad, in which case it's clear that it wasn't actually designed by anybody.
Absolutely. If I do my job right, you'll never know I was there. And in terms of actually drawing and illustration, it's just something I never got tired of. I have to do something with my hands to focus when someone's talking to me. It's just like a weird kink I've kind of figured out over the years. And it used to be I would kind of squish clay around when I'm talking to clients. I'll actually sit down and I'm like, hey, so I'm so-and-so, I do this and that. While I take notes, I'm going to doodle, I'm totally paying attention. And I've just kind of always done that. And whenever I was in college, I took a couple illustration electives to just kind of like feed the beast, and just kind of never stopped. So
cool.
So what kind of influence, or I should say rather, who or what has influenced your style of art?
Oh, goodness. Well, I grew up loving Alphonse Mucha, and goodness, I'm blanking on his name, Norman Rockwell. Once I had an internet connection that could handle it, I started discovering people like Leosh, who's become very, very popular. I believe she was the lead concept artist on what was that video game that came out recently with the like robot dinosaurs and you're hunting them as like a
Horizon Zero Dawn?
That's the one. She just did the character design art for the red.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's a baller concept designer. And nowadays it's just like everyone. I follow a lot of artists, and there's always something beautiful about what people create. Everybody's got an eye for something. So,
like we said, your work with Eagle Ordinary is really cool and totally yours, and we had been familiar with it before our interview here, but what most people are going to be familiar with that are listening to this podcast is probably your work that you've done for Games Workshop. So we were going to ask you a couple of questions about that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll answer what I can.
Okay, so how did Games Workshop end up talking to you in the first place?
So we were, when I say we, by the way, I don't mean the royal we. My partner in crime, who writes all these comics and, deploys emotional support as well, is Richard McKee, who is an excellent individual who's also in Washington, D.C. And,
hey, a paisano.
Yeah, yes. And whenever I go to Dragon Con, he is always there. He's the face. He's my booth babe. So
Nice.
We were sitting at the table, and this great big Scottish bloke walks up to the table, and he's imagine like a rugby player kind of looking guy, and he introduces himself as Andy Smiley, and that name did not mean anything to me at the point because I work a lot and I don't get to read as much as I would like, and so as someone who is fairly new to the hobby, I was reading all the kind of really introductory stuff for people who like Guardsman, which was Caiaphas Cain, which was Cadian Blood, which was, Aaron Dembski and Sandy Mitchell and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And Andy Smiley, to anyone who has like two neurons to rub together, is one of the Black Library authors who writes a lot of the Flesh Terror novels, as well as a few others, some audio dramas, etc. And anyways, he walked up to the table and he introduced himself and he said, "Hey, so do you do commission work and freelance work?" And I gave him my usual spiel, which at the time was, "Oh, I really love to, but unfortunately I do software work during the day and it keeps me very busy and I can't justify the price, et cetera, et cetera. And, but I can refer you to my very talented friends who would do a better job than me." And he says, "Oh, but we have money." And I was like, okay.
Magic words.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I linked
money.
onto the we part and I'm like, "Who are you again?" And he handed me his card and I was like, oh. And I looked to Richard and he's like, oh. And anyways, we kind of had some discussion back and forth after that. And really nice guy. I was instantly threatened by him. Truth be told, still a little threatened. He's very large. Writers have no business being that large. But, eventually they had me do some freelance work for them. And so, that's what I'm doing today. I get to do some art for community here and there whenever they need it. I've gotten to work on a few of the animations. It's always a delight when I get the opportunity.
Do they have any sort of guidelines you have to stick with, or you just have a lot of freedom with it? Because it's not the typical GW has style.
Yeah, it's, it's definitely got kind of a funny style to it. I'd say that there's some things that my work really isn't appropriate for, right? Like anything that's studio side has its own look. As you've noticed, I don't expect I would ever be asked to work on the project over there, nor would I think that my style is appropriate. That said, I can change my style when I like. And, I've created some stuff that's kind of filtered into the mesh. Like you might have seen the Thanksgiving illustration. That was kind of the Norman Rockwell gathered around the turkey, actually table full of weapons thing with Gulliman and Yvrit. Yvrain, thank you. But anyways, it is my comfort zone. And so I generally work within the community. I know the folks within community. They're lovely folks. And it just works. And they've got a huge team of really talented freelancers that they can go to for whatever they need. So it doesn't really make too much sense for me to stretch to do something that they could do very easily.
Do you collect too then? So you said you have Valhallans. And I think Campbell shared me some pictures of yours of some knights you recently did.
That's right.
So do you stick with just Imperium?
I've kind of developed a soft spot for Thousand Suns ever since reading the whole Black Legion pair of books.
Yes,
those
are really good.
Those are my favorite.
My beautiful red boys. my gorgeous muscle wizards. I love them. And so I'll probably get like some token Thousand Suns to put on the table. I don't love how Space Marines play. So I might just kind of reserve them for friendly games. To be honest, I don't play too much 40k tabletop in general. I like Necromunda. I favor smaller number games.
Yes.
That's kind of why I've started moving towards knights, because it's kind of easy for me to keep track of. I can't memorize splats very easily.
That's the thing. You get to play BattleTech while they play Warhammer. It's great. It's best of both worlds.
There you go. Exactly. That's the idea. Yep. I just need to magnetize all the little limbs so I can pop them off as they destroy them.
Yeah, you're playing BattleTech with miniatures that aren't terrible.
Ooh, yeah. Throwing some
Shots
shade at
fired.
35-year-old Fascist sculpts. To the surprise of no one, I have a bunch of the ones that were based on anime robots.
They just released the rule set for that, not to get off track, but I heard the new BattleTech rule set that just came out is actually a ton of fun.
Oh, well,
I wouldn't be surprised.
The new BattleTech PC game is really good.
The PC game is excellent. I wouldn't be surprised that their new stuff is good. So you don't just draw and paint and collect and design Department of Motor Vehicle Forms, you also build and create beautiful costumes and props for cosplay. And we wanted to ask you a little bit about that too. So we've seen, I remember a blog post you did where you talked about making life-size weapons, the new plasma incinerator and stuff for Games Workshop to take around. And I believe that they first brought that around at Nova last year, maybe. I think. I don't know. And a really cool prop. Everybody was crowding around to get pictures with it at the little photo booth there. So how long have you been doing that?
Oh, goodness. Middle school? Since I could get my hands on duct tape and cardboard. Did they have the light on at Nova? I remember those pictures coming out. Sweet.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Good. The component board still hasn't fallen apart. I had fever dreams for like the first week after I left it in their care. I'm like, I hope it doesn't set the studio on fire. What if I ended the whole hobby because I set their studio on fire? That would be the worst.
I think a couple of people might be upset with you if that were the case.
I think that a few people would be upset, and I tried very hard to keep all my wires from shorting out. But it was also a very, very short month. But yeah, I started when I was fairly young, and making like a half dozen nobody costumes from like Kingdom Hearts or whatever girls were playing back in the odds. And, learned sewing, was shit at it, moved over to doing some more prop stuff, and I really enjoy the prop stuff more.
What kind of goes into building those props? I mean, I know every single one is different, but as someone who isn't really up on cosplay manufacturing, like what goes into it? Like how much planning is there? What sort of materials do you work with?
Ooh, so many different avenues. And it's right. There's a bunch of different ways to skin the cat, but I would argue that there's not really ever one correct way to do it. There's only what do you prefer working in. There's with the accessibility of 3D printers these days, anyone with an FDM, which is fused deposition modeling, those are the plastic printers, can very quickly print out a very accurate to scale model, which would then have to be sanded and worked and possibly recast to your preference. And people think that's fairly easy, but it actually requires a very interesting set of skills and a lot of money and time. I prefer to work with polystyrene, extruded polystyrene, which is basically housing insulation. It's the same stuff you eat food off of at a picnic. So it's, you don't necessarily want to breathe it, but it's not going to kill you if you do, which there's a lot of sanding that happens. So this is important. So I work a lot with polystyrene, like my Cadian armor kit was sculpted from it. I work with fiberglass occasionally, but not often. It's heavy. And more than anything, I work with what's called slush casting, which is where you would take either of these methods that I've described and you would recast it in a plastic resin after there's a whole bunch of steps involved. And I can get into it if you like, but if someone's listening to this and they're interested and they want to try out making costuming for themselves and they want to make a prop that they can reproduce really quickly and make like a whole set for their friends or their family, look up, just Google rotocasting and you can find some tutorials on it. And then another way to go about it, and the way that you see people make Space Marines and how those guns were mostly made, is with something called EVA foam, which is basically exercise mats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's cheap.
I've seen those cut up for like body armor before.
That's the stuff. It's cheap. It's easy to get your hands on, easy to cut, easy to shape, holds paint fairly well. It's light. It's hard to complain. There's a lot of good stuff going on for EVA foam.
Yeah. So how do you paint your props that you make? I'm a total neophyte when it comes to building props. I know how to paint models and paint like touch up paint on cars and stuff, but I've never ever made props before. So how do you go about painting that?
It kind of depends on the surface, because if you've got something nice and hard like my Cadian armor, if you've seen that, it's like just casting that resin stuff I talked about. That stuff's hard. It's never going to bend. So I can paint it with whatever I like. Oftentimes I just brush acrylic onto it. I paint it like a guardsman would paint it. So it looks a little like shit.
You're not giving yourself enough credit. I've seen that suit in person. It looks really nice.
Thank you. I mean, the paint job's supposed to look like shit because if you're like you're spending half your day getting coughed up by Tyranids, it's going to have scuff marks and like repainted bits and anything. But if you're doing something that's EVA foam, if you're making a Space Marine or you're making a prop that's going to be handled by a lot of people and needs to be kind of soft if it bumps into something or bumps into a wall and bounce back, then you need to think about it more as like this living, moving object. And you would prime something like that in something called Plastidip. You can get that in a spray form. You might use this for coating metal tools to help prevent
Rust?
Rust or communicating electricity, something like that if you're working with electronics. Anyways, you can spray it all up and down your foam. It creates this really nice smooth coating that takes automotive paint like a charm. With the plasma gun that I made for that prop set, I accidentally... or rather, I purposefully tried spraying it in the ultramarine blue that comes in the rattle can, like the giant one.
Yeah.
And that does not adhere to rubber. Weird that they would design it to adhere to plastic. I don't know why they do that, but works really well for plastic, not so much for rubber. And it just all came off as dust.
All is dust.
All is dust. Oof. Oh, and I just told you the 1,000-something. Why do you have to hurt me like that? And so I took some automotive paint and used that instead. Glossy, beautiful finish, just how I wanted it. And I mucked that up with some, just some of the regular inks that I have from my Citadel set. Put some Agrax on there. And
nice.
Yeah, mussed it up.
Nice.
So
you were at Adepticon this year, right?
That's right.
And you were, I think you were going around in your Acadian costume, correct?
That's right.
Is that Richard who you're with, who you're dressed up as?
That's right. He's the blonde,
I met him.
Blood Angel looking, cherubim faced individual.
I met him at one of the after parties, and he had a great T-shirt on. It said "Die for the Emperor, die trying." And that really struck a chord with me. So y'all were dressed up in your Acadian gear, and I remember the Warhammer community put up a video after Adepticon with just a bunch of sights and sounds of Adepticon, and y'all were in it. So congrats on being a worldwide superstar. And so do you? You've made your Acadian costume. Have you made any other costumes that you like to wear around cons?
Oh, goodness. I made a few Tech Priest ones. Actually, I've got a fun story with one of those. So one of the first 40k costumes I made was Tech Priest. It was supposed to be some biologist or whatnot. And there's been a lot of different people who have made the little clampy mechadendrites that sit over your shoulder. And I tried to do the very same thing, and it worked out pretty well. Had a little flexi sensor on my glove so I could squeeze my finger and the claw would close.
Oh, that's cool.
For all the things that I do know how to do, engineering is not one of them. I learned what a fulcrum was during the creation of that project. And my engineering process is add more torque and add more epoxy until it works. And by the end of it, I had just one moving, I had the claw. It didn't have a pivot, but it could hold full water bottles. So I took that as a win. So anyways, I'm wearing this for the first time. I'm wearing it to Dragon Con. It's Georgia. It's a heat wave. I'm hot. I'm dressed from head to toe in this thing. You can't see my face. I've got the goggles. I've got the gas mask. My hands are covered. I could be literally anyone, but I look like a filthy, hunchback, scary, mechanized motherfucker. And I get out of the train station, and there's already a bunch of cosplayers there. And this family, this little family comes straight up to me, and I'm kind of taken aback because they're very close, and they offer me a baby. And
what?
I've never held a baby before, and
what?
But they're thrusting it at me, and so I
take this.
take it. Yeah, I take it carefully like a loaf of bread fresh from the oven, like holding this thing like, oh, God. And the family crowds around me on either side. Dad snaps a picture. They take the baby back. And with no words spoken during this whole transaction, politely move on down the road.
That's fantastic. So they're just
Did
like,
you
oh, a
hold the
tech
baby?
priest. We'll give the baby to the tech priest.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems, I guess they wanted a cherub or something. I don't know. It was a bad life decision for everyone involved. But, so I made those tech priests, and I made a commissar costume for my friend Steven. And before that, let's see. Goodness, I've been Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I had nice short hair during the time, so it worked. Plenty of things I can't quite remember. Lots of weeby things I'd rather forget.
Now you're in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's Campbell's wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, those were the days.
Okay, so we're going to, Sarah, thank you so much for talking a bit about your creative process and what you're working on. And so we're going to get into close to the end of our little chat here. But before we do that, is there anything that you'd like to plug or any direction you want to point our listeners in to get a look at your stuff?
Oh, goodness. Well, Eagle Ordinary is a pretty good place to start. There's some links. I'll kind of take them around to other periphery areas and just keep an eye on community, I suppose, if I'm lucky.
We're going to do a little bit of lightning round and ask you some quick questions about yourself and about the hobby. And then we are going to play our favorite and everybody's favorite game that we do with all of our interviewees here. And we're going to ask you Fuck, Marry, Kill Primarch Edition. But before that, let's get into the lightning round. Favorite Imperial Guard regiment?
Oh, Valhallans. Easy.
More than Cadians, huh?
Yeah. I come from upstate New York, so there's just some camaraderie there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
A little winter solidarity.
Yes.
Isn't there actually a Valhalla in New York?
There may be, but I'm from Mexico, New York, so you can make whatever you like with that.
That is very confusing.
I'm confused every day. They're building a wall there. I just don't know what to do about it.
It seems superfluous given the size of the town, but they're still doing it.
Yep.
If you could collaborate with any one artist, who would it be?
Oh, Jesus.
Living or dead?
Do authors count?
Sure.
Aaron Dembski.
Well, since he's definitely a listener of this podcast, Aaron, you know how to reach her, eagleordinary.com. All right. Favorite music to create to?
Ooh. Recently, the Antlers or Owen Pallet, which is like some folky, depressive bullshit, but that's okay. Mystery Skulls is good music too. Yeah, Mystery Skulls. You can say that.
What's your favorite anime?
Oh, God damn it.
Oh, you just had to go there. For nostalgic purposes, let's go with FLCL.
How do you feel about the new FLCL, or have you seen it yet?
I don't know if I can bring myself to see it. I want to remember it for what it was. It was perfect for adolescence.
We don't have to talk about this. We don't have to talk about anime, Campbell.
Dan, ask her about sports now.
What's your favorite sports team?
Anyone who's beating the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
So Bruins.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bruins for now. They let me down too well.
All right. The lightning round is over. Now it's time to play the game that everybody wants to hear. Fuck, marry, kill. And before we get to you, so we can give you a little time to refine your answers here, let's give a quick refresher, Campbell, of our answers, because we haven't done this in like a long while. So my fuck, marry, kill was fucking Jagati Khan, because, I was marrying Vulcan, and I was killing that complete piece of shit fuckboy Fulgrim.
In my instance, I was fucking Lehman Russ because he's a wild child and I'm kind of into that. I would marry Gilman because he's a dependable guy and pretty much the only person who's still alive at the moment. And as for killing Lorgar because he's a fundy dork piece of shit.
All right. Sarah, you're up.
I'm going to have to say Probably fuck Sanguinius, because he is probably the closest thing to a woman in the bunch, and he seems like he'd be a great passionate lover. Vulcan, I would marry because, I mean, if you want dependability, and like he's also a crafter, so I feel like we would be able to get along really well for a long amount of time.
Yeah.
And kill Logar. I mean, no option.
Lorgar's just terrible.
He's the worst.
He's the
All right,
worst.
Sarah Kaiser, I feel like the three of us could probably talk for hours, and this has been a really, really fun interview, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
We're happy to have you. And just real quick, are you going to be at Nova?
Oh, I would like to. We'll see how this year pans out. I'm going to try and make it to Gen Con this year.
Well,
Wild.
If you feel like having a terrible time, there's always space on the floor in our room.
I will seriously consider that and let you know.
Boom, friends
All right,
forever. Sweet. All right, well, wasn't that a great interview, Campbell?
Absolutely was. That was, I think...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you're speechless, I can tell.
It's our first time actually interviewing somebody who actually does work for Games Workshop, which is pretty fucking cool. So
Feckin'. Pretty fucking cool, kid.
Pretty fucking cool, kid.
All right, so that was a great interview. As you can tell, we know totally what we're talking about, and it's not that we're recording the podcast before we record the interview, and it's not weird at all. Don't worry about it. So right now we're going to move on to our next segment, which I'm very excited about this one because Campbell didn't really know about this until the show, and I'm calling it Name Those Nights. On Warhammer Community today, they put out a either today or yesterday. No, today. Yeah, here we go. They put out a night naming generator for people to use. And so Campbell finished a bunch of nights, so we're going to go ahead and fucking name these fuckers. Campbell, are you ready?
I will say I do have one name for a night down, which is for the Night Valiant when I eventually get to it. Because, the thing has the giant flamer. So my first idea, which is a really dumb idea, was to convert up a Hank Hill to stand out in front of it and call it Propane Nightmare. But but that reference is just a bit too tortured. So I thought I'd go with something a little less stupid that isn't a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reference. And the actual name for it is the Hierophant of Woe, piloted by Lady Cassandra. That one's it. Lady Cassandra and the Hierophant of Woe. That's the actual one. That's the only one that is set in stone. The rest are up to you, my good Dan.
All right. So let's go with your big night first. Your what is it? A paladin
Crusader?
or errant or whatever?
Crusader.
Oh, no, the Crusader. Yeah. Okay. So I've pre-rolled a bunch of dice on my random dice roller here. So your Crusader.
I think a random dice roller is called a die.
Your Crusader is called Duchess Silas Magellan.
Whoa. Oh, God. Silas Magellan sounds like a D-list DC Comics character.
Duchess Silas Magellan. And
all right.
That is the Crimson Might.
It's yellow. The night is yellow and blue. We went over this already.
Write that shit down. Duchess Silas Magellan, the Crimson Might.
Okay, might wanna punch up that word crimson with what's a good is there a good anagram or a good synonym for yellow?
Well, don't worry about that. Duchess Silas Magellan, the Crimson Might.
The yellow mellow might.
Okay, so next up, let's do one of your let's do your gallants.
Let's work our way down, yeah.
Yeah, let's do the gallant. Okay, so the gallant is going to be Mamsel.
Mamsel. I love the apostrophe in there.
Mamsel, Loretta Rexus.
Loretta Rexus is an amazing.
It's a really fucking good name.
That's an amazing country music. That's an amazing country music, outlaw country name. Loretta Rexus, proud of Texas.
Loretta Rexus, the Adamant Fury.
That's fucking dope. That's good. That's good. That's actually a good one. I think if I ever have a child, I will name them Loretta Rexes.
Loretta Rexes, the Adamant Fury. Okay, that's a really good one. All right, so let's start with your first Helverin.
All right, let's start with the Helverin.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, y'all ready for this?
Y'all ready for this? All right, we're talking Sire. Okay, Sire. That's
all right.
That's pretty good. Sire. Sire Gwendolyn Jor. Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn. Okay.
Sire Gwendolyn Jor. And then that one is, oh boy.
Dude, Gwendolyn is like the name you try to tell people. Like when people, that's the name people.
Well,
if your name is Gwendolyn, at least what?
I got bad news. Gwendolyn's knight is also named the Adamant Fury.
The less adamant, less furious.
less adamant. So you might have to look up thesaurus for that one and figure out.
Yeah, if your name is Gwendolyn, at least once you've had to explain to people what your name is while you were getting a swirly.
Yeah, you probably. Yeah. All right. So we got like 6 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
On my little notepad here, I'm writing these names. I'm just putting a ditto mark under the knight name for him.
Okay. So
all right.
Let's do one of your armigers then.
Okay.
Or what? Helverins and Warglaives. Sorry. Okay. So your Warglaives. This one is going to be also Mamsel.
All right.
Okay, Mamsel. Dorian Krail. Dorian
Creel?
Krail. Mamsel. Dorian Krail.
All right.
The Dorian Krail, the Reaper Redemption.
That's. I think that weapon's actually called a Reaper Chain Cleaver. Reaper Redemption. That's
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I got my first tattoo there.
Mamsel Dorian Krail, the Reaper Redemption. Okay, we got one more Helverin and one more Warglaive to go through. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So your Helverin, your second Helverin is Duke.
Dude.
Duke Lucella Griffith. And Lucella.
God, that name is medieval sounding.
Goes around in the Vengeful Redemption.
I'm not sure that makes sense. Got a lot of redemption and a lot of fury here.
Well, we're working with what we can here, okay?
Yeah, it's true.
All right.
And who is the last and actually probably least of these?
The last and least of your friendly knights is Lady.
All right.
Lady Catherine Rasmador. Catherine Rasmador, who is the Gilded Conquest.
Bam. I'm pretty sure Gilded Conquest is a Chinese restaurant in Revere. But that's all right. You know what? These ain't too bad. I'm looking at the other names here, and I'm pretty happy that none of my guys end up being named Terrence. Because yes, Duke Terry.
Well, there is a name here, Tarquain Hawkshroud, which I'm very interested in.
Oh God.
For myself, really.
I will say every time I ever read Hawkshroud, I always read it as Hawkwind, which is the band that Lemmy Kilmister was in before Motorhead.
All right, so we got some names for you, bud. Now you can get that personal heraldry even more personalized on your knights,
and even more heraldic right after I painted all of it.
I expect you to remember these names for the next episode when I quiz you on them.
I do have them written down, so in pencil, the most permanent of all writing implements.
Okay, so let's end this silliness by doing something even sillier. It's time, Campbell, for Fact or Fan Fiction. Now, astute listeners may know that we've been reading a multi-part fan fiction the last few episodes, and I think we're on part 3 of our adventures in Terra High School.
And these are recorded just far enough apart that I forget what some of the voices are supposed to sound like. So if they're inconsistent, sorry.
Okay. So far, I think we've had the anime club has been shut down by principal. I heard back from Rob. I do have, as of like 10 minutes ago, a summary for this episode. Oh, fuck yeah. All right. Give it to me, baby.
Previously on Fast Times at Terra High, anime is outlawed, but all hope is not lost. A secret meeting with Horace convinces Magnus that there may yet be a way to retrieve the confiscated contraband to continue the club's ways in secret. Now the club mounts a daring heist.
All right, so let's join our protagonists in media res with Fast Times at Terra High School.
Oh, and also, I did have the express is, quote, also important for next time you do the recap for prior chapters of the fan fiction. You have to mention that Lorgar is fat. This is very important. It is a character trait. Because it's very important that he is a portly lad who watches pretty princess anime.
Okay, just like you in high school.
Please, I was watching mecha anime.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Get your facts straight, Dan. Lorgar carefully crawled beneath the desk of the attendance lady, following Corvus Corax, Magnus, and Ahriman. The Administratorium, the heart of Principal the Emperor's regime. The anime club had no maps for such rarefied and restricted rooms. Only Sanguinius's goth friend Corax, the master of escaping detentions and wayfarer of being sent to the office, could help them in such a place. Sanguinius would have come, but he already had plans that he couldn't cancel. As Ahriman slipped past in front of him, Lorgar pushed the chair further aside and bumped the desk. The five of them froze as something began to wobble on the desktop above them, but nothing else moved in the office. Lorgar looked away as Corax glared back at him from his shadowy perch against the water cooler. When they started moving in, Lorgar looked back at the desk and saw that it was wobbling. It was a framed embroidered sign that said, "When night falls, heresy rises." Lorgar didn't know what it meant at the time, but he would. A lot of things happened as they crossed the Administratorium floor, but that's a story for another time. And there is a link there for a fanfiction that does not yet exist. Eventually, they crept to the back of the office, and Lorgar gasped as he realized the true nature of what he had been asked to do for the anime club. In front of the door to Principal the Emperor's office floated two of the servitor skulls that the students of Terra High School knew so well. "School resource officers!" Lorgar quietly hissed. "I didn't sign up for this!" But Corax had a solution. Everyone with the slightest knowledge of the ways of Terra High School knew that these mere servants of the administration were of no concern to a true student of detention. Corax withdrew an empty beer bottle from his feathered black trench coat and threw it across the administration floor. It broke against the wall, and the skulls blinked, light pouring precisely from their sockets with perdition. They floated off, investigating, and Magnus clapped Corax on the shoulder. "You're a true member of Anime Club," he said, genuinely. Corax smiled, but shook his head. "I would never be a member of any club that would have me as a member." They all laughed quietly to themselves. Lorgar frowned when they crawled past the closed door that they had just distracted the school resource officers away from. "Why do we try the door?" he asked, prodding Ahriman in the thigh. Ahriman shrugged and struggled up to the front of the squad, asking Magnus and Corax, "Lorgar wants to know why we don't go in the door." "We don't have the key, Vice President," smirked Corax archly. "We can't go in the door to the principal's office without the key, but I have another method by which to carve my madness." Corax made a magician's flourish with his hand, and then, right there in his hand, there was a key. "Whoa," said Ahriman. "That's not the key to the principal's office," grumbled Lorgar, who had seen things like that. It was another key. Magnus punched Corax in the shoulder. "Get a move on," he said. They were running out of time. There was no way to tell how long until the servitors would come back. The anime club had to act as soon as possible. Corax smiled and crawled over to a vent cover in the side of the principal's office door. "You want to know about this key? Here it is." The key slid effortlessly into the keyhole, locking the vent grate shut, and clicked when Corax turned it. The vent cover flipped open, and Corax smugly slipped into the shadows behind it. "Follow me, if you can." Lorgar and Ahriman stared at Magnus, but Magnus was resolute. He crawled into that hole, and his courage dared the rest of Anime Club, who had followed him here to follow him. That's redundant as shit. They took him up on that dare, and Lorgar was shocked when, after crawling through the vent into the darkness, he emerged into the school roof. Korak sighed, already opening another vent grate with his key. Got a slight detour, he said. That's how it goes sometimes, in the webway. Magnus nodded sagely, and Lorgar nodded sagely too. The webway was one of the true senior secrets of Terra High School. You could get from anywhere to anywhere in that maze of ventilation shafts and service tunnels if you knew its secrets, or you could end up anywhere else. We're lucky we're on the roof, observed Magnus wisely, resting against the wall to the side of the vent. We could have been taken anywhere. All right, grinned Korax, throwing the next vent grate to the side. This one's the one. I can feel it. Last one in is cursed. Then he sprung into the shadow, smiling. They came out in Principal the Emperor's office. It was like they remembered it being during the times they tormented and tribulated themselves in this office. They were quiet because it was a place of hushed and sanctimonious reverence. The great desk of the principal stretched out before them, dominating the landscape, and there were many icons lining the shelves that named how great he was. This is it, whispered Magnus, eyes focused. We need to be careful. Ahriman shivered in his shoes. Where is it? He asked in a quivering whisper. Where's the anime? Said Korax, crossing his arms and leaning against the wall. It's not going to be here. We all know there's only one place that Father would hide a truly precious thing in this world that he cared to protect more than anything else. Magnus's eyes widened. But you can't mean the Golden Throne? Lorgar wasn't listening to Magnus or anyone else. He was already walking to the door to the principal's toilet. He had uncovered the riddle of Korax's words before even the president of the anime club, and he knew that behind the closed door was the anime that they had come so far to find. Lorgar wasn't going to let Korax or Ahriman get it first. He would prove he was a worthy successor to the man who would lead the anime club. Lorgar opened the door and reached for the light switch. Then he flipped it and realized the truly depthless horror of his mistake. Principal Emperor sat there on his golden throne, unmoving yet unyielding. Eyes filled with endless, enduring, imperious power. The burning and burnished halo of light around his head glinted in the light of his office bathroom, a wreath of righteous wrath that reflected off the mosaic tiles on the walls of his innermost sanctum. They had been carefully hand-placed by the freshman class of '08, showing him in all his glory on the day he became principal. Principal the Emperor's gaze met Lorgar's, and then he said, Did you think it would be so easy, children, to steal from the throne of a man made into a god? End chapter 4.
Oh,
sorry, end chapter 3.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Things are getting fucking real.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I can't wait for chapter 4.
You'll have to tune in next time to hear it. That being said, my high school actually did have an underground network of tunnels because it was a fallout shelter for the surrounding area. And if you got in with the right, like, kind of bad teacher, they'd show you down there. And not in like a creepy way. They'd be like, hey, students, let's all go into the school dungeons. I'm not helping my case here, but I had a very good high school education.
Campbell,
rural Connecticut's a strange place. Don't go there.
Talk about something?
I'm saving that for therapy later.
All right, it's time. It's time to say adios, muchachos. It's time to become, what did you call us, the later lads?
The later lads. It's the follow-up to the bye-bye men.
Yes, we're gonna get out of your hair here. We're gonna let you resume living your miserable, terrible lives without our wonderful golden voices in your ear holes. And take this time to remind you that you can contact us. We already talked about this earlier in the show, but get at us, man. Again, if you want to have a serious discussion about topics on the show or, you know, the various and sundry ways I should go fuck my mother, like, the best way to do it is through email, contact@40kbadcast.com. We also want you to tell us nice things if you're feeling nice things, and you can do that at contact@40kbadcast.com. But most importantly, guys, if you finish a model, if you take pictures of your stuff or you're having a game or something and take some pictures, why don't you send them on over? We want to see them. We want to see what our listeners are doing out there in the real world.
Yeah, tweet them at us he's at DB_sleazy. I'm at brother SRM. And if you really do want to support the show, go to shop.spreadshirt.com/camtunes, where we have the whole menagerie of one t-shirt design. But I have more t-shirt designs if you want to go back further. So
yes,
show your Badcast bad shirt support.
T-shirts. We already talked about how impoverished I am after the Astraeus purchase. So please buy those shirts. We need the money. I need gas money for my gas.
I'm so sad that you have to move into the cardboard box your Astraeus came in.
Oh, my God. That thing is going to be fucking huge. I don't even know if it can fit in a KR.
I will say, how gratifying is it to go to the Forge World web store, click buy one thing, and reach the free shipping thresholds?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking rad. It's pretty dang cool. All right, man. Do you have a nice inspiring quote to send us out on?
There is no better millstone for success than that of adversity.
That's fucking true. In Warhammer and in real life. Guys, thanks so much for listening to episode 32 of the 40k Badcast. We'll be back next time, and we're bad at 40k.
So can you.
Ooh, spooky.